October 1, 1946, Nuremberg, Germany. The former Governor-General of occupied Poland, Hans Frank, stands before the International Military Tribunal to hear his sentence. Once Hitler's trusted legal advisor and later the ruler of the general government, he had overseen the exploitation, deportation, and murder of millions. His trial exposes not only his own guilt but the vast system of men who carried out Nazi rule with precision and loyalty. Among them was his protégé, a lawyer who rose to become his deputy as the state secretary in the Nazi Germany-controlled general government in Kraków. From his office, he signed decrees that sealed the fate of countless Jews and Poles, sending them to ghettos, camps, and death. He transformed murder into policy and extermination into routine administration. In the end, like his mentor, he would stand trial and pay for his crimes with his life. His name is Josef Bühler. Josef Bühler was born on February 16, 1904 in the small town of Bad Waldsee, then part of the German Empire. He was the son of a baker and the second youngest of 12 children in a devout Catholic family. One of his brothers became a priest, while Bühler chose a different path, studying law in the cities of Munich, Kiel, Berlin, and Erlangen. Intelligent and determined, he earned his doctorate in 1930 and soon began working at the law firm of Hans Frank, a connection that would shape the course of his life. In the 1930s, he married Hedwig Almaas, and the marriage produced 2 children. On January 30, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. In March of the same year, Hans Frank was appointed Minister of Justice for Bavaria, and Bühler joined his staff as a state attorney. He became a member of the Nazi Party in April 1933 but never joined the SA or the SS. In October 1934, on Frank's initiative, he entered the Reich Ministry of Justice in Berlin. The following year, again on Frank's recommendation, Bühler became chief prosecutor at the Munich Appellate Court and that same year joined Frank's staff at the Ministry of Justice. From 1938 onward, he served as Frank's office chief. When Hans Frank held the position of minister without portfolio. In August 1939, just before the outbreak of the war, Bühler was conscripted into the German army, the Eastern Territories by the Soviet Union, while the central area, including the cities of Kraków, Warsaw, and Lublin, was placed under German administration as the so-called general government, a territory with deliberately ambiguous legal status. In October 1939, Hans Frank was appointed Governor-General of this occupied territory and transferred to Kraków to establish his headquarters. At Frank's request, Josef Bühler followed. Bühler first served as Chief of Staff and Head of Administration under Frank. When Arthur Seyss-Inquart, Frank's Deputy Governor-General, left in May 1940 to become Reichskommissar in the occupied Netherlands, Bühler assumed his functions. In March 1940, he was appointed State Secretary for the administration of the general government, effectively becoming Frank's chief deputy and representative during his absences. Although Bühler later tried to portray himself as a mere subordinate, surviving documents reveal that he wielded real authority in both administrative and racial policy. In April 1940, Bühler issued strict guidelines instructing German officials to avoid any social contact with Poles or Jews, calling such interaction unworthy and a health risk. He oversaw the training of new administrators and ensured that Nazi racial regulations shaped every aspect of life in German-occupied Poland. In June 1941, his position as Frank's permanent deputy was made official. Around this time, Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, granted him the honorary rank of SS Brigadeführer, an equivalent to brigadier general in the U.S. Army. The Nazis regarded the general government as a racial dumping ground and a reservoir of cheap labor for the German war economy. From the autumn of 1939, it was chosen as the main destination for Jews deported from Germany and Austria. The area was to become, in the words of Nazi administrators, a holding space for those deemed racially undesirable, a place without rights or protection. At the top of this brutal hierarchy stood Hans Frank, ruling occupied Poland like a king, with Josef Bühler as his loyal crown prince. In October 1939, Hans Frank was appointed Governor-General of this occupied territory and transferred to Krakow to establish his headquarters. At Frank's request, Josef Bühler followed. Bühler first served as Chief of Staff and Head of Administration under Frank. When Arthur Seyss-Inquart, Frank's Deputy Governor-General, left in May 1940 to become Reichskommissar in the occupied Netherlands, Bühler assumed his functions. In March 1940, he was appointed State Secretary for the administration of the general government, effectively becoming Frank's chief deputy and representative during his absences. Although Bühler later tried to portray himself as a mere subordinate, surviving documents reveal that he wielded real authority in both administrative and racial policy. In April 1940, Bühler issued strict guidelines instructing German officials to avoid any social contact with Poles or Jews, calling such interaction unworthy and a health risk. He oversaw the training of new administrators and ensured that Nazi racial regulations shaped every aspect of life in German-occupied Poland. In June 1941, his position as Frank's permanent deputy was made official. Around this time, Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, granted him the honorary rank of SS Brigadeführer, an equivalent to brigadier general in the U.S. Army. The Nazis regarded the general government as a racial dumping ground and a reservoir of cheap labor for the German war economy. From the autumn of 1939, it was chosen as the main destination for Jews deported from Germany and Austria. The area was to become, in the words of Nazi administrators, a holding space for those deemed racially undesirable, a place without rights or protection. At the top of this brutal hierarchy stood Hans Frank, ruling occupied Poland like a king, with Josef Bühler as his loyal crown prince. He emphasized that of the 2.5 million Jews in the region, the majority are unfit for work. Decades later, at his 1961 trial in Israel, Adolf Eichmann, one of the chief architects of the Holocaust and a participant in the conference, confirmed what Bühler's words had meant, that he was calling for their immediate murder. In the months that followed, the extermination machinery expanded across German-occupied Poland. By early 1943, the destruction of the Jewish population was well underway. And even Nazi officials began to speak openly of their crimes. At a staff meeting in January 1943, Hans Frank spoke openly about the criminal nature of their rule in Poland. Josef Bühler was present when Frank declared, "We must remember that everyone here is listed on Mr. Roosevelt's roster of war criminals. I have the honor of being first on that list. We are therefore accomplices, so to speak, in a world historical event." The remark revealed how deeply the Nazi administration understood its own guilt, even as it continued its crimes. Bühler became entangled in the ongoing power struggle between Frank and the SS leadership, particularly Heinrich Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich, who sought greater control over the general government. Earlier in the occupation, in the spring of 1940, Friedrich Wilhelm Krüger, the higher SS and police leader in the general government, complained to Himmler that Frank had elevated Bühler to the position of deputy governor, placing the civilian administration above the SS and police. Tensions deepened. After Bühler's participation in the Wannsee Conference, yet despite internal rivalries, both branches of authority cooperated in the persecution and murder of Jews and Poles. After the war, Bühler attempted to shift responsibility for mass killings onto Krüger. However, after Krüger was replaced by Wilhelm Kopp in November 1943, Bühler worked closely with the new SS leader. In February 1944, the two agreed that Jewish property would be transferred to the general government's administration once the owners had been murdered. District governors sent Bühler regular reports detailing progress in the extermination of Jews, the exploitation of more than 1 million Polish forced laborers, and severe shortages of food and medicine. In March 1942, Bühler personally informed the governor of Lublin that ghettos and transit camps had been established for Jews deported from Slovakia and Germany. By then, Operation Reinhard was underway, and Bühler knew these resettlements were covers for mass extermination. This operation was the Nazi plan to murder all Jews in German-occupied Poland, carried out in extermination camps such as Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka. Overall, 4 million people of the 1939 population of the general government area had lost their lives by the time the Soviet armed forces entered the area in late 1944. On January 18, 1945, as Soviet soldiers approached Kraków, Josef Bühler fled the city, abandoning the collapsing administration of the general government. The next day, the Red Army entered Kraków, ending nearly 5 years of German rule. Bühler escaped westward into Germany but was captured by American troops in the Bavarian town of Schrobenhausen on May 30, 1945. He was interned in Nuremberg, where he was later called to testify in the defense of his former superior, Hans Frank, before the International Military Tribunal. On April 23, 1946, Bühler took the stand. His testimony, meant to lessen Frank's guilt, instead exposed the deep involvement of both men in the administration of terror. He denied all knowledge of the Holocaust and sought to shift responsibility onto SS leaders Heinrich Himmler and Friedrich Wilhelm Krüger, both already dead. In May 1946,